This here is an opportunity. What we see is Ethereum's dominance. How much of all of crypto is currently in Ethereum measured as a market cap? This arrow over here, that's when Ethereum changed its mechanics from proof of work to proof of stake. A lot of anticipation, then a sell the news event. Then Tom Lee started to buy Ethereum with his treasury company Bitmine. That rally lasted until the beginning of September of last year. Since then, Ethereum is going down. Now in trading, I like to bet on the overarching trend, which is currently negative. So if we bet on a direction, if we want to look for an entry opportunity to bet on falling prices. In a bull market, we buy the dips. In a bear market, we short the rallies. And so we are getting closer and closer to a potential resistance. After Ethereum has outperformed by roughly 5%, we could enter a short. We could bet on falling prices and then make a gain without any leverage of close to 20%. I have done this over here. I've also done this over here. And you can see that for yourself on the track record page. We are currently at an all-time high with our current open positions. And here is my entire trading history. All of the closed positions completely public. And I don't think that many people in the space are willing to share all of that data. We have made 47% APR over the last 2 years, while the vast majority has simply been losing. And that's simply by being a bit less opinionated. It's simply by trying to be objective and not always hope for a price recovery. It's better to see things the way they are and act accordingly. Now have a look at this chart. This shows the stablecoin market cap relative to the US money supply. So how much money is actually flowing into crypto or out of crypto? If we want to see rising prices, we need to see more capital in the space. Now there are fluctuations, right? People just swapping in and out of the risk on assets. But in general, if the ecosystem expands because capital enters it, then prices should rise. But also vice versa. If we see how money is flowing out of the space, prices should fall. What we see at the bottom, that's the Ethereum price. When no money enters the space, Ethereum has a hard time. When there is no inflows and no outflows, we tended to stabilize. Once we got our inflows, so that was since October of 2023, that's when we get a tripling in Ethereum's price. The problem is the situation right now. Since October of last year, there's no more inflows. We tended to trade in a range, and now we even broke out of that range. So there's active outflows. People are converting their stablecoin deposits into actual bank deposits, and that is not good. Ethereum already had a very hard time doing anything when there was no inflows. Now we even see outflows, which implies an acceleration of the price decline. I am not emotional at all about the price developments. If we see prices rising, that's of course good. We can make money quite easily. But even if prices fall, if we are properly hedged, we can still make money. I personally, of course, also prefer a bull market. That helps, for example, this channel here, right? There will be more people that are interested in crypto when prices rise. But it doesn't have any impact on my trading. My trading, I want to be as objective as possible. What we're seeing here, that's the decentralized finance total value locked. How much capital is currently in the DeFi ecosystem? We had the DeFi summer in 2021, then the subsequent collapse when Terra Luna went bust, and Three Arrows Capital and FTX, etc. Then the turnaround that started in October of 2023. Surprise, surprise. That's also when the stablecoin market cap started to expand again. And now, since October of last year, also again, surprise, surprise, this is going down because the stablecoin market cap is not expanding anymore. Now it's even going down. Thus, I think there's a good chance this will continue to fall. Now that's decentralized finance. How much capital is on there? Here is decentralized finance just specific to Ethereum. So that's a total. That's Ethereum. A lot of that fluctuation in this measurement of capital is just the prices of the underlying assets moving. If we look at Ethereum's total value locked measured in ETH, it is a bit more constant. But it also tells us a story, as in there is maybe not that much more upside potential, as in decentralized finance tends to also peak at a certain level. And decentralized finance is also a measure of how much inherent leverage there currently is in the ecosystem. At 300 million ETH, we tend to be topping out. Currently, we are at 23 million ETH. Are those additional 30% risk really worth it. Now again, this is the stablecoin market cap relative to the Ethereum price. Now here we've got the stablecoin dominance relative to the Ethereum price. Now what's the stablecoin dominance? It's the same kind of measure that we have with the Bitcoin dominance or the Ethereum dominance. We look at all of crypto and then we check how much of the entire market cap is currently, in this case, in stablecoins. So when this is very high, then people are very much risk off. They swapped out of the risky assets and just want to hold stablecoins. When this is very low, people are risk on. And so prices in general tend to be very high. This is a useful measure because it gives us hints of when we might be cheap enough. And it also gives us hints when we might be at least temporarily extended. Have a look at the Ethereum price. When the stablecoin dominance was low, the Ethereum price tended to be high. If the stablecoin dominance was to go back to 16%, and that's when last time the bear market tended to turn around, then the Ethereum price should fall. How much? Maybe all the way down to $900. I don't think it's very unreasonable to make that case. I think this is the most objective way to look at the charts. Now, not everything is negative over here. I do believe that Ethereum at some point when it's cheap enough will recover again. The fundamentals are still fine. Here are the tokenomics, as in how does the supply of Ethereum contract or expand over time. It is since the merge, so since the move from proof of work to proof of stake. At the beginning, Ethereum was used a lot and so more ETH was burned, then was created through the staking. The supply shrunk, but since April of 2024, the supply is expanding again. Now that rate of expansion, it's not necessarily that much of an issue. Before the merge, the tokenomics were much worse. The Ethereum supply expanded much quicker. And relative to Bitcoin, it actually did do better, especially during the time when the burn was high. Now in the recent past though, since Ethereum isn't getting used as much, its supply expansion is extremely comparable with Bitcoin's. It's 0.8% per annum. It's not much at all. It's very much possible that that supply expansion can get absorbed by the market. And it might get absorbed in simple things like staking. This is a very positive chart. This shows how much of all of Ethereum is currently locked up, staked, not getting moved. The higher this is, the better, because it means that the liquid Ethereum is getting tighter. Thus, the price can rise. Over the last 2 years, this grew from 27% to 33%, a 6 percentage point increase or 3 percentage points per annum. Now, Bitcoin does not have any staking program, but we can have a look at all the Bitcoin that has not moved for the last 5 years. This tends to go up as well over time. In other words, Bitcoin's liquid supply also shrinks. It doesn't shrink as quickly though. It went from 20% to a bit over 30% over the course of 8 years. So that's a bit over 1% per annum. So the liquid supply of Bitcoin shrinks less quickly compared to the liquid supply of ETH, which would mean an advantage for Ethereum. And so yes, I do think that Ethereum will likely continue to underperform, but not forever. This is now the clean Ethereum dominance, including the stablecoins. This is where Tom Lee started to buy at the exact same point, 7.2% dominance, where we also turned around in August of 2019. And I think this support will be widely watched. If Ethereum underperforms the rest of the market by another 28%, I think the risk to reward is worth it, simply because the tokenomics are intact, simply because it's still the largest blockchain in terms of capital being locked. Now, as said, I do active trading, and that's not just for Ethereum, that's for various altcoins, and we are doing quite well, and that's based on data. So we look at how do tokenomics develop, how do the number of holders develop, what are the real drivers of demand and supply, and that's why we've been able to achieve this. Now here's the thing, I cannot share all the open positions now here on YouTube. However, there is this new website. You can either connect via Telegram or you can put in your email address and then you will get one free premium trade sent to you. That's a trade that I currently hold. It's also a trade that's held by many premium members, and I think it's a trade that will continue to make money. Besides that trade, you will also get a tutorial video that shows how to set up that position. So this link is down below. It's in the pinned comment. There's no payment needed. There's no credit card needed. Simply connect your Telegram or put in your email. If it's the first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish here regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time. Cheers.